And it's Transform Your Relationships Live. I'm Laura Rubinstein here with the awesome and amazing Dr. Rhoberta Shaler. Hi, Rhoberta.
Good morning, Laura. Whoa, are we going to have a topic today? As usual, everything's a little juicy here, but this one is very clarifying. I'm excited to talk about it.
Me too. I mean, this is the month July where we had Independence Day. So, we've had a little distance from the holiday and things around it with the holiday. But what if we took a look at what being independent really means with regard to relationship and those other terms like codependence and interdependence? What are they? And let's start there. Let's start defining those three terms.
Sure. I'll define them visually, okay? These are independent two people. They can stand alone. They're good alone. They may prefer to be together, but they're good alone. They're fully functioning. They're great. Codependent is either one person leaning all over the other for excessive reliability on the partner for their emotional needs, or worse, two people leaning on each other, because obviously if somebody slips, the whole thing falls apart. But interdependence is when you have two independent people who say, wow, wouldn't this be something? And they purposefully join and they create a safe sanctuary for both of them, knowing that at any time they're fine, but they choose to be together.
Wow, that was super clear. I love that. And I almost, this codependent leaning thing is like you have to be like glued together, otherwise the whole thing falls apart. But if you're glued together, there's no freedom in that, it feels like.
No, and that's where we get words like needy and clingy and, I can't do that because he or she will, or whatever. When we get into codependence, we do not have emotional autonomy. And you're absolutely right. I mean, that's icky. The person who's codependent feels, unsafe. They feel constantly wanting reassurance and validation. The person who is not codependent, who is being leaned on, is like, really? I've just got to keep assuring you all the time. I've got to be present all the time. So the emotional toll, the emotional cost is really high. Now, there are some people who are not truly independent. They actually like being leaned on. And so it gives them power over, as you can see. So, like, okay, I can manipulate this person. Guess who they are? They're your hijackals.
Yeah, and they attract people who need to feel needed. Seems like
Sure.
so I think I've seen relationships where it's like the person falls for someone. I see it in the beginning of relationships. They're falling really hard because there's such an emotional, like neediness being filled. Like,
Mhm.
I want someone to tell me so much, they love me so much, and they need me in different ways. Like, they got to call me every day for 6 times a day, and there's all this. It just feels very needy.
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
don't know a better word, but what am I describing?
Well, it's the affirmation, validation, adoration, all of that. Tell me you're thinking of me. Tell me that I'm the most important person in your life. Tell me that you need me. Tell me that you want me. Tell me that you like me. Tell me that you love me. And tell me, enough, because I go away from you for 10 minutes and I feel, I need more oxygen. So give me more oxygen. And so a codependent person is just really hungry and thirsty all the time for that affirmation. So they will go overboard and do anything for the other person, no matter whether that other person is independent, interdependent, dominant, codependent, they will do it. And so that is an immediate setup for lack of equality, equity, reciprocity, and mutuality. It's an immediate setup. And we've talked about that before, the three must-haves of a healthy adult relationship. Any adult relationship has to have those three things. And if they don't have those three things, you got nothing. So if they don't have those things, you're not going to get honesty, safety, trust, respect, and reliability, which are the relational gifts that bring you closer together. So in a codependent relationship, you are never going to have those things because the relationship is based on not having them.
And we've done shows on the equality, reciprocity, and mutuality. So be sure to look at our Facebook page at Transform Your Relationships Live for that. And having that it's such an empowering feeling. I know you're all about emerging empowered, but when you're so needy and you have to take care or fix somebody because that makes you feel good, and then you think that's the health of your relationship. There's some key things people can identify that says, oh, maybe I'm in a codependent
Mm-hmm.
connection here.
Yeah, well, you can be in a really entangled and enmeshed codependent relationship, and that's when one partner needs the other, who in turn needs to be needed, and that's where you get this, right? But it's also where you get this, which is slightly different than an independent person with a needy person, and it's not just needy. This person could be fearful. It's not. It's just a way to make a distinction. Codependent is not, I hope you don't think that's something horrible. It just means, okay, like I have a broken leg. Uh, I'm codependent. Oh, I could change that. I could heal that, right? So if you hear the codependent go, oh, I'm awful, I'm a mess, I'm terrible. No, just hear it as, I might be doing a little bit of that. But if you get with a hijackal, of course, they're going to be here and you're going to be there, and they are always looming over you. And so they want you to be leaning into them because it gives them power over. But when you have a truly independent person, they will not be using their power over you, but you will tire them out with the neediness. So it's really important to understand that if you're codependent in your life around pleasing someone else, that's the whole deal. And of course, you can sound healthy saying, oh, well, that's what we're about, pleasing each other. But that's where the equality, reciprocity, and mutuality comes when it's present. Of course, we want to be pleasing each other. But when it's one person constantly over pleasing, overdoing, I did my podcast last night, Laura, and I created a new term, or I think it's a new term because I Googled it and it doesn't exist. But I realized that the whole enabling thing,
Uh-huh.
we get into an enabling situation where we are usually trying to fix, solve, justify, rationalize, or make the consequences of someone's poor choices go away. And I realized there was another deeper problem with that. And I'm calling it enabler's guilt. And what enabler's guilt is that not only am I doing all of that, I'm there trying to please the person, do everything for them, take care of them, um, letting them wipe their feet on me. I'm doing everything and then enabling them, of course, to behave badly. And then enabler's guilt is, I feel badly I can't do enough. I feel badly that I can't change them. I feel badly that they're not happy. And now you're just doormat material. Totally. They are going to walk over you with their trench boots at any time, and then they'll upgrade to soccer spikes. You don't want that. You
Oh,
don't want that. So last night's podcast was about that. Are you suffering from enabler's guilt? And you'll find that at saveyoursanitypodcast.com. But this is really important stuff to understand. So we might talk a little bit about what it looks like if you're a codependent human. Would you like to talk about that?
yes, definitely. What are these signs? What does it look like?
All right. A codependent person will have some of these or all of these. They have difficulty making decisions. They have difficulty identifying their feelings. They have difficulty clarifying their communication. And they value the approval of another person more than they value themselves. And the last one is they lack trust in themselves, therefore having poor self-esteem.
Okay.
So, if those things are happening, if you have difficulty making decisions or identifying your feelings or communicating clearly, or if you're all about getting the approval of others and devaluing yourself in the process, or you don't trust your intuition, you don't trust your insights, you don't even trust your vision when you see red flags, you make excuses for them, you're on your way to becoming an enabler.
Mm.
We don't wanna go there. That turn in that ticket. You don't wanna go to that destination.
Yeah, those traits of a codependent, and it may not show up as all of them, especially if you've started to do some work. I
Yeah.
mean, but sometimes we just fall into those patterns, especially our self-esteem is one of the hardest things to fix or to work on, to feel strong enough, good enough when you have such a compassionate spirit, because I find that the people I've known who are beautiful human beings that are on the, wanting to be needed side of the equation, whether if they're with it's a different relationship if they're with interdependent, and most of the time those relationships don't last because you say they wear them out. But if they're in a kind of an equal relationship of neediness, it doesn't do anything for the self-esteem.
No, it doesn't, but, those people will be so attached to each other that they won't look for other humans to attach to. So they get very much in their bubble, and that can be satisfying to them. They're codependent. And so they don't look for help. They're both in that situation. When a codependent person is leaning on an independent person too much, the independent person becomes resentful. And so over time, it wears them away and makes them annoyed and all of that. But a hijackal wants you more and more and more codependent.
And it
And
becomes more and more untenable or more stressful for both, it seems like both parties. The hijackal is obviously very stressed.
well, the hijackal is then having to exert more and more control to get what they want. But then after a certain point, they don't have to do anything. All they have to do is look at the codependent sideways, and they hop to and get into get into formation, and that's really unhealthy.
Yeah. So, um, so we've talked about independent being good on your own, codependent, either leaning codependent, two people leaning on each other, like
In an unhealthy way.
in an unhealthy way. And then we've talked about the interdependent and codependent. And now we have this kind of interplay of
Ye
interdependence.
yeah, 2 independent people who say, I would like to have that healthy relationship and create that safe sanctuary for both of us. These are people who understand that a relationship is 2 me's and a we, and I'm willing to work on the we equally. That's healthy. That is super healthy.
And yeah, and sometimes I think about, I feel like I could be independent, but the more I'm with someone, am I going here? Like, could I actually survive with them? I always want to test myself. Can I be independent? To do a reality check. Any
Mhm.
suggestions for that?
Well, there's a very fine line between loving somebody, wanting to be with them, enjoying their company over the company of others. You have to find out what's healthy, what's not healthy in that equation, and then say, "Okay, if I prefer to be with this person, but I don't have to be with this person, that's healthy. But if I must be with that person, no, you've got some work to do on independence."
Yeah. And I find that having, as a woman, having more girlfriends to have a space to have some deeper conversations with is very healthy for my interdependent relationship.
Oh, yes. High five, girl.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I was, weekend before last, one of my friends and I, we just went to a restaurant outside. We sat there for 4.5 hours, and just talked. It was wonderful. You know,
Mhm.
we talked about far ranging fields of all kinds of things that overlap in our lives. So restorative, such a healthy thing to do, such a relaxing thing to do, such an empowering thing to do.
It's very soul nurturing to know that you're not relying on one person in your life to just be that confidant, to be that soul stimulator, to be that place you can, it feels like I have a nest and I have places to get nurtured and not have just one person to bear the burden of that. And
Yeah.
not just myself, not just my partner, but also there's a community.
Yeah.
We're there for each other, right?
Mhm.
So, and that was one of the reasons I did create the feminine power cards, because I was like, I need to tap into that feminine side. I want to do that with my girlfriends, so that my husband, I have other energy for, and then we can come together in that, and I don't need him, lean on him. I mean, of course, there'll be times when we're going to need emotional support from our loved one more than others, but on a general basis, we both value that we can both take responsibility for what our well-being is generally, and then come together to form that we. Talk more about what the we means, that third entity.
Yeah, well, two me's and a we is something that we all need to look at when we get into the relationship, because all three need attention, all three need work. So each person has to be willing to entertain good conversation that helps each me grow. But then there are times when we have to defer to a me or a we. There are times when you can't get everything you want as an individual, because what's better for the we takes precedence. And I find that in healthy relationships, that balance is easily tweaked. In unhealthy relationships, it's me, and the we should give it to me. And that's not good. That's not good. And that can take you right down a rabbit hole. So the we is what's the best for creating that sanctuary. What enhances the sanctuary that I want to come to, that it is the person I most want to talk to, the where I find that safe landing place. And that's the we well developed is that place. I honestly don't think that there is much that tops a curious, delightful, playful, deep, appreciative friendship with your partner, and that it can be expanded, it can be enriched, it can be enhanced, and you focus on that, and the we just becomes your safe landing place, and both of you feel that way. And so the give and take for the me's elevates.
Yeah, and it becomes a fun, like you said, curious game to do that in a way. Because I find with my husband, we talk about our relationship, about it, and we say, what do we want? And then we'll talk about his projects and my projects. So
Right?
we have all kinds of conversations, and it's very conscious in a way, because we want that sacred space, and we want to nurture that sanctity of it. And if you ignore it and you just assume that I'm working on this or what I need from that, is you want to nurture this place where you both come whole to, and you
Mhm.
both say, what do we want to create here in this space? And it just becomes this delightful time spent together.
Mhm. Yeah, it's the we, it's the nurturing of the we-ness.
Yeah.
And that's really missing in many relationships. And of course, our relationships go through phases. You have 4 kids, 2 jobs, 3 pets, and 2 cars. Whoa, where's the weeness, you know? But if you lose that weeness, you find yourself going further and further apart from one another. And that becomes more and more imperative to have those check-in points, those times together to meet. Like I was working with a couple this week and I said, okay, when is your we time? I don't mean date night, I daily, when is your we time? And they went, what? You've got to carve out a we time, 20 minutes of maybe downtime after dinner, 20 minutes when the kids are in bed, to reconnect. How was your day? What are you thinking? What do you need? I love you. I'm so glad you're doing this with me. Appreciative time to be seen, heard, known, acknowledged, appreciated, and accepted by each other. If you don't build that in, you can really start wandering apart and then say, how did I get way out here? And can I get back? So don't go too far apart. You may lose the breadcrumb trail.
Yeah. And part of it is not, like you said, it's not necessarily a date night, right? It is. And I'm thinking, as you're saying that, when are the times that this happens in my relationship? And I think in order to create it, you have to know the flow of your relationship and your lifestyle.
Yeah. Yeah.
So like you said, one could say, well, logically, okay, I'm going to do this every day at 2:00 in the afternoon, or we're going to do this. It's hard to do that unless 2:00 in the afternoon is when you do have less stress, when you don't have outside distractions, when you want to spend time together.
Mhm.
And whenever that time is, like for us, it's like right after we eat breakfast, we're just sitting at the table, and it just naturally happens that this is our we time. We talk about that space, we talk about appreciation. It's on a Saturday morning, there's no distractions, that kind of thing. I just find that happens to be the we time. Or it's a walk. We're going for a walk, and it's just when we're not distracted. We're just there walking together, talking about what are we creating together here in this relationship and also in life. Okay, now that we have this nice space, we like being together. We like doing certain types of things together. Is there anything else we can explore here about how we spend our time together and what we talk about together? So
Yeah.
I think that is a really wise idea to start looking at. First, don't say you need to do it and you need to do it at this certain time,
Yeah.
but say, I wonder where this space is, our we time, and let
Mhm.
it emerge for you, and then consciously do it.
Mhm. And, on the daily basis, it doesn't have to be those big conversations. You can carve out a couple of times during the week like you do when there's low stress and you're both present. But on a daily basis, it may be eye contact, it may be a touch, a kiss, a hug,
Absolutely.
a little bit of a ritual so that if you're leaving the home, you say goodbye to each other, looking at each other.
Right.
You greet each other when you come in. There was a wonderful quote quite a while ago, and I don't remember if it was Maya Angelou or Oprah, but she said that there is nothing better than when a person lights up when you come into the room.
Yeah.
And we want to be that in our relationship. We want to be happy to see each other. We want to make it a priority to let the other person know that we've reconnected. Like, I'm here, not just, honey, I'm home, but eye contact and maybe a touch, and then you take 3 kids to different activities, but you've reconnected purposefully.
Right.
Those moments are precious to the development of a healthy relationship.
They really are. And they enrich life so much because you have that little uh, connection that suspends time in a moment, and it
Mhm.
marks time in a day. And it makes that sacred.
Yeah.
So I think that these in developing an interdependent relationship is one of the most uh, important and sacred things you can do that will enrich your life. And it comes from an independence to some degree, not being, you have to take responsibility for your happiness. I think that's a foundational thing. The minute your happiness is dependent on somebody else's is the minute
Yes.
they will fail.
Yes.
Somebody else doing something else, that is a slippery slope
Mhm.
that that can destroy that we, because you
Mhm.
have to come as a happy person to the we time.
And honoring that in each other, that someone goes off and does their own thing and they come back more relaxed, more engaged, more relieved. and wow, that was a benefit to the we. Even though it looked like it was entirely me, it had a high benefit to the we.
Yeah. Because then you're not expecting them to fix you, or they're not expecting you to solve their problem. Doesn't mean you don't work out problems together,
Right.
or if you have a problem, they can't be a resource to you, or be their emotional support, but it's that you're not expecting that from them 24/7, and that you have to take on some of the burden. It's too much for someone else to be responsible for your happiness. There's
Yeah.
no way that anyone can do that.
It's
And it
not their
doesn't
job.
work. Oh,
It's
by
not
the
their
way,
job.
it doesn't work either, by the way.
No,
No one
happiness
can
is
make
an
you
inside
happy.
job.
Yeah,
Happiness is an inside job, and that's one of the fundamentals. If you think you're with somebody to make their job is to make you happy, no. If you're happy and they're happy, you will be happy, and you will create even more, but it's not their job to make you happy. That's your job, for sure. And, Laura, just so everybody might get some help about this whole idea of codependency and understand it more deeply, I do have a podcast on it that I did recently that I think you have a link for,
I
and
do.
so that people could maybe explore that a little more deeply if it stimulated some thoughts for them and they'd like more information.
Yeah, definitely. Here's the bit.ly. Oh, no, it's not codependent. Sorry. It didn't work. That one didn't work
No,
because
it's
we have,
Codependency Podcast.
that's right, the
S-
podcast.
So if you just go to bit.ly.com, bit.ly/codependency podcast, that'll give you some really clear distinctions to help further what we've talked about today and clarify for you. Because
Yeah.
this is really important stuff. If you find that you're falling a little in the direction of codependence, get some help to get straightened back up to independence, because it's something that happened in your childhood dynamics or relationship dynamics over time. You didn't look at it before, but maybe today you're saying, "Oh, I kind of lean in that direction. I don't want
Yeah.
to. I want to get back up straight and be independent." Get some help, get some outside view that can help you to turn that around. It's important.
Yeah, and we're here for questions. I mean, I haven't seen comments yet, but I'd love to, after this, feel free to post and we'll respond. We'll maybe even do additional shows on this. This has been a really in-depth conversation. I love that you have the podcast, and you have a new community that helps people emerge empowered. And that's
Yeah.
what it's called, Emerging Empowered Community, right?
Absolutely. The Emerging Empower community is there for you. Just go to joinintoday.com. $19 a month gives you all of the discussion threads safely off social media. They're on my website. Gives you the opportunity to join into group Ask Me Anything calls a month, and gives
Wow.
you 20% off all of the product. Plus, you get my videos that I purposefully make for members called
Mm.
Hijackal Hazards and Hacks. That's the only place they are. So if you want the inside scoop, go to joinintoday.com. This has been a great topic, Laura. I agree with you. And maybe we will do it a little further another time.
So have fun. Happy Independence Month, and enjoy the process of becoming interdependent and your relationships. I love that with the two me's and the we. There's actually
Exactly.
like a baby in there, that you want to really take good care of, because it'll bring much joy and love. So wishing everyone much joy and love.
Yeah,
Thanks, Laura.
absolutely. And see you again. Bye, Laura.
Bye.